Hello everyone, today we are going to study the second chapter in ESAT Mathematics 2 paper. This chapter is on sequences and series, and it also includes a section on binomial theorem. So let us quickly define the terms. What is a sequence? A sequence is basically a function that goes from n to r. Why does it start from n? Because these are the indices of the terms. So a1, a2, a3 and so on. And the terms themselves are the outputs, in this case, in the range r. You can write a sequence as a list a1, a2, an in the roster form. You can also arrange a sequence in the set builder form. So a sequence can be both finite and infinite, and the difference between a sequences and series is that sequence is just the list of terms, while series is the sum up to n terms of a sequence. You would designate the first term of the series s1 as a1, the first term of the sequence. s2, the second term of a series, would be a1 plus a2, the sum of the first two terms of the sequence. Similarly, sn for a finite series will be the sum of all terms of the sequence from 1 to n. Now, when we calculate Sn, this is known as the general sum, and any other s with its coefficient less than n will be known as partial sums. Now let's study what an arithmetic sequence is. This is a sequence that has a constant common difference between consecutive terms. Actually, this is between all consecutive terms. ESAT will ask you questions relating to sums, properties of sequences, sometimes real life application mixed with algebra, but TMUA questions will give conditions on specific terms or sums and require you to derive the sequence parameters. The formula for the general term of an arithmetic sequence is given as a plus n minus 1 times d. The sum of the first n terms is given as s of n is equal to n by 2 into 2a plus n minus 1 times d. Now this 2a plus n minus 1 times d can be written as a plus n minus 1 times d. This a plus n minus 1d is the last term and this a is the first term. So this sum is also equivalent to the formula of n by 2 into a plus l, where l is the last term and a is the first term. Use whichever formula is required according to the given problem. Speaking of problems, try this question. The fifth term of an AP is 17 and the 12th term is 45. Find the sum of the first 20 terms. I have not solved this question here in my notes, but I'll give you a hint. The fifth term of the AP will be given as a plus 4d and the 12th term will be given as a plus 11d. Subtract these two and you will obtain the value of d. Plug it in one of the original equations, you will find the value of a. Then use any of the sum formula that you can complete faster and you will get your answer. The answer will be 780. Moving on, we will look into geometric sequence. So a geometric sequence has a constant common ratio r between consecutive terms. So arithmetic sequences had a constant common difference between all terms, that is term n minus term n minus 1 and term n plus 1 minus term n would be all equal for arithmetic sequence. In geometric sequence, term n plus 1 divided by term n is equal to term n divided by term n minus 1. The ratio between two consecutive terms for all terms in the geometric sequence is the same. Convergence of the infinite sum for a geometric sequence requires mod r to be less than 1. First, let us figure out what is the nth term or the general term of a geometric sequence. That is given as a r to the power n minus 1, because the first term is a, the second term is ar, third term is ar square and so on. The sum of the first n terms is given as Sn is equal to a times 1 minus r to the power n divided by 1 minus r for r not equals to 1. This formula is used when you have a finite sequence and mod r is less than 1. What is modulus r? So modulus r could be any fraction, right? So it could be 1/3, minus 1/4, whatever. So in this range, if you start with a positive first term, your sequence will either be oscillating or decreasing. We will ignore the oscillating sequences for now. Let us concentrate on the decreasing sequences. Let us assume that I start from a first term of 5 and my common ratio r is half. So the terms will be 5, 5 by 2, 5 by 4, 5 by 8 and so on. You can see that the magnitude of the terms keeps on decreasing, and what will happen slowly as we increase the number of terms is each individual term added will be very close to 0. Now when I consider the series, which is the sum of all individual terms of a sequence, then each individual sequence term being very close to 0 will not affect the total sum. This is known as convergence. So convergence of a series means with every additional sequence term that you pile on, the overall sum will not change. Of course, there is a better technical definition of convergence. Many of you have done it in your AP Calc course, but here we don't need it. Just know that for a geometric series, convergence of an infinite sum requires mod r to be less than 1. What if mod r is greater than 1? So start with a positive first term, 5 again, and this time take the common ratio to be 2. The terms will be 5, 10, 20, 40, 80. So the terms keep on getting bigger. There is no point in adding them up till infinity because it will blow up, right? So convergence will only affect the series if mod r is less than 1. Fine. So what is that formula? That formula is given as s of infinity is equal to a by 1 minus r. can be easily obtained from this formula. If I set n goes to infinity and mod r is less than 1, then r becomes a fraction. A fraction raised to the power infinity goes to 0. So this term will go to 0 and I will end up with a by 1 minus r. It's quite clear from this formula. Now, if I'm looking for a finite sum where mod r is greater than 1 and the number of terms is finite, then that value is given as Sn is equal to a times r to the power n minus 1 divided by r minus 1. If each term of a GP is raised to the power of k, then the resulting sequence is also a GP but with a common ratio r to the power k. Alright, remember this. If a1, a2, a3 dot dot an are in GP, then product of the first term and the last term is equal to the product of the second term and the second last term, and so on. Okay, so a1 times an, a2 times an minus 1, a3 times an minus 2, all of these products will be equal. If you are solving a sum where you are required to assume 3 terms in a GP, assume them as a by r, a and ar. That way, if you multiply them, you would cancel the r and you would get a cube is equal to something. There is a high chance that you figure out the value of a this way and eliminate the need for complicated simultaneous equations. If you have to assume 4 terms instead of 3 as we discussed, then you can take the terms as a by r cube, a by r, ar and ar cube. Again, by the same logic, if you have to multiply these, then the r's will cancel out and you will be left with a to the power 4. Alright, try this sum. The sum to infinity of a geometric series is 12 and the first term is 8. Given that the common ratio r satisfies mod r less than 1, find the value of r expressing your answer as a simplified fraction. I hope you tried this problem. It was quite easy. Basically, 12 is given as 8 by 1 minus r. We used this formula. Right? Plug in the values, you will get r is equal to 1/3. Fine. Remember these pointers. Mod r less than 1 is necessary for a GP to converge. At r is equal to 1, all terms are equal, and r is equal to minus 1 implies that the terms alternate provided that the first term is non-zero. Because if the first term is 0, then every other term is 0. At r is equal to 0 and a not equals to 0, t of n greater than 1. That means if your common ratio is 0 and the first term is non-zero, then every term apart from the first term becomes 0. And the series has a finite sum, which will be a itself. Try this question. An arithmetic sequence has the first term a and common difference d. The sum of the first 10 terms is 155 and the sum of the first 20 terms is 610. Find the value of the 25th term of the sequence. I hope you have solved it. This one is not that difficult. Basically, figure out S10, you will get an equation in a and d from that. Figure out S20, you will get an equation in a and d from that. Solve simultaneous equations, you will get d is equal to 3. To replace d is equal to 3 in any one of the equations, you will get a is equal to 2. That will give you the 25th term quite easily. The next thing that we will do is known as the sigma notation. It is a way of representing sums in a compact manner. That's why I have mentioned here compact representation of sums. So sigma n denotes the sum of all natural numbers up to n, that is given as n into n plus 1 by 2. Sigma n squared is n into n plus 1 into 2n plus 1 by 6. This denotes the sum of all squares of natural numbers up to n. The sum of all cubes of natural numbers up to n is given as n into n plus 1 by 2 whole square. Use these three to simplify the problems with sigma notation. For example, try this question. Sigma k is equal to 1 to n. 4k minus 3 is equal to 190. Find n. This sum can be done in two ways. Let us solve the sum in sigma notation format first. So basically, you separate out these because sigma distributes over addition. You get k is equal to 1 to n 4k, k is equal to 1 to n 3. If you add 3n times, you just get 3n, right? And 4 will go out of the sigma because it's a constant. Then sigma k is equal to 1 to n will just become this formula. So n into n plus 1 by 2. You simplify the quadratic and you will end up with 2n square plus 2n minus 3n is equal to 190, which will give you 2n square minus n minus 190 is equal to 0. You have to factorize this. 2 into 190 is 380. 380 can be factorized into 20 and 19. Very easy middle term. So this will be 2n plus 19 into n minus 10 is equal to 0. Since all the index numbers for the terms of a sequence have to be natural numbers, so n has to be 10. It cannot be minus 19 by 2. Alternatively, you can figure out that this was an arithmetic progression. So you could calculate the first term, the common difference, and then use the sum formula to get the same quadratic and the same final answer. Try this question. The first three terms of a GP are x, x plus 2 and x plus 3, where x not equals to 0. Find x belongs to R. If a, b, c are in GP, then b square must be equal to ac because a by b should be equal to b by c. That means b square is equal to ac. Use this, solve the quadratic, you will get your answer. Well, you don't even need to solve the quadratic, x square will cancel away. Remember these two formulae, arithmetic mean and geometric mean. These two can be used to test if three numbers are in AP or GP. So if three numbers are in AP, then the middle term should be the average of the outer terms. And if three numbers are in GP, then the square of the middle term should be equal to the product of the outer terms. Also, for any three numbers, AM is greater than equals to GM. This is known as the AM-GM inequality. You might not require this in ESAT, but maybe some weird problem in TMU will need this. So just keep it handy. The equality for this will hold only if the numbers are equal. Try this question. Sn is equal to 3n square plus 2n. Check if Sn is AP. If so, find D. Sn denotes the terms of a series. So S1 is 5, S2 is 16, S3 is 33. That means A1 is equal to 5, A2 is S2 minus S1, 11, A3 is S3 minus S2, 17, and so on. After figuring out the difference between the sums, we get the terms 5, 11, and 17. We find that the common difference is 6. So that means this is an AP. Alright. In the next section, we will learn recursive sequences. So recursive sequences are defined using at least one previous term. you will be given an initial condition that is known as the seed value. So recursive sequences can be used to write both arithmetic and geometric sequences. So let's assume a1 is equal to 2 and I write a of n plus 1 is equal to a n plus 3. So this would mean a1 is 2, that is given, a2 is 5, a3 is 8. So you see that this was an arithmetic progression. I rewrote it using the definition of a recursive sequence. Similarly, you could also write a geometric sequence in terms of recursive sequence. Let's say a1 is equal to 3 and an plus 1 is equal to twice an. So a1 goes to 3, a2 goes to 6, a3 goes to 12 and so on. Okay, recursive sequences are the most general form of sequences available. You can write both AP and GP in terms of it. But why do we not use it more often? Because AP has a fixed formula for sums, general terms and stuff. GP has also its fixed set of formulae. But recursive sequences do not have a fixed set of formulae. Okay, they have to be analyzed case by case. The most famous recursive sequence is the Fibonacci sequence. So in this sequence, you have a1 is equal to 1 and a2 is equal to 1. And an plus 1 is given as an plus an minus 1. That means every term is the sum of two previous terms. So the terms will be 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, ... The common mistakes in recursive sequences are forgetting the initial value, which means you cannot start, mixing the indices n plus 1, n minus 1, trying to jump ahead without building terms. That means you are trying to guess what term could land up in the 7th position without figuring out the 5th and 6th. Try this question, please. So there are 6 terms in the beginning. So it will be 5 times k equal to 1 to 6, 3 to the power k minus 1. So this is basically 5 into 1 plus 3 square plus 3 cube plus ... 3 to the power 6, a total of 6 terms. Use the sum of GP for finite number of terms and you will end up with 5 times 1 times 3 to the power 6 minus 1 divided by 3 minus 1, which is 5 times 364. Do not calculate this yet. Keep it as it is. We will check if we could simplify it while adding. Otherwise, brute force multiplication is always on the cards. For the second term, we have k is equal to 1 to 6, 2 to the power k plus 1, which means 2 square plus 2 cube plus ... 2 to the power 7. Again, use the GP formula and we'll end up with 2 square into 2 to the power 6 minus 1 into 2 minus 1, which is 252. Now here, the sum will be 5 into 364 minus 252. There are some heuristic calculation techniques here. So 5 into an even number at the end will always finish with a 0. And if you subtract something that ends with a 2, the last digit of the answer should always end in a 8. So how many ever options you have, if your final answer does not end with 8, you can cancel those out. If the question is easy, then only one of them will have 8. So you would get the answer without calculating. If it's not, then at least you can eliminate a few options. I'll finish this chapter in 2 parts. In part 1, we have completed sequences and series up to recursive sequences. In the next part of this chapter, scheduled to go live next Saturday, I'll complete the binomial theorem part of this chapter. If you require help with any of the previous chapters, please book a class with me using the link in the description below. If you need more practice problems, do check out the Amazon links in the description. With that being said, I'll end this video here. Thank you all for joining. Look forward to part 2 of this chapter and I'll see you in the next one.